The George Zimmerman case.
Yeah.
The main point of the case, the reason why he got off was stand your ground. No.
No, self-defense.
Self-defense.
Yeah. Okay. So the way stand your ground works is like this. The distinction between stand your ground and self-defense is the requirement for you to have to retreat, right? So with stand your ground, what it says basically is if I'm legally supposed to be where I'm at, and you confront me, and you put me in a position where I think I'm going to be like you're going to commit a extreme bodily harm or something lethal with respect to me, I don't have to try to get away from you before I can pull out a gun or use lethal force in order to protect myself, right? With stand your ground, with the George Zimmerman case, what that was he argued self-defense in the sense that he was pinned to the ground. He had nowhere to go anyway, so the idea of retreat didn't apply. So stand your ground wasn't applicable.
Right, but he was the aggressor.
He was.
How do you
Because and so with the
how
way
do you argue for self-defense when you were initially the aggressor?
because you can turn it around legally, right? So I could be the initial aggressor. Now the level of aggression, for instance, if I'm the initial aggressor, let's say I come up, we have a case in Florida just now that just happened, right?
Right, the parking spot case?
Yeah. So me personally, I don't think it was a good shoot because the level of aggression that was applied to me did not warrant the response of lethal force. So in a sense, in a situation with like with the Trayvon Martin case, George Zimmerman, though the aggressor, right? If Trayvon Martin then responded with lethal force, then you can claim self-defense on the part of George Zimmerman in his response to Trayvon Martin's use of lethal force. Only if what George Zimmerman didn't warrant a lethal force response.
Right, because Trayvon didn't even have a gun.
Exactly. But
he was a teenager.
But you could still. But the arguments that people make are you could still kill someone with your hands. You can still kill someone without using a firearm, right? So the question then becomes whether
a lot harder to do.
Of course it is. But the question then becomes which side of the story do you believe?
Okay.
Because George Zimmerman will say, well, he was on top of me, getting ready to slam my head against the concrete. And versus the argument you made, where it's like Trayvon didn't even have a gun. You followed him, you bothered him, and when he started whooping your ass, then you decided to pull your gun out and shoot. So that's really what the case was about. So from a legal standpoint, I understand why he got off. From a legal standpoint, as a lawyer.
As a black man and also an NRA member, do you agree or disagree with how the jury found George Zimmerman?
As a black man?
Yeah.
As a black man, I don't like the verdict.
Yeah.
Legally, I understand it.
You understand it?
Like if you would have put me on the jury, I don't know that I could be able to look at myself again and make a ruling and find that he was guilty in that sense based on the information and facts that we had from a legal perspective. And that's always the double consciousness that I have to engage in as a black man and a lawyer, right? Now, of course, a lot of people is like, well, that you as a black man should supersede who you are as a lawyer. However, being who I am as an advocate, I have a responsibility to be objective and understand that.
Yeah, it's a tough case. Zimmerman got his gun back at the end also.
Yeah, look, trust me,
which I think he sold.
I am no fan of Zimmerman. Let me tell you right now.
Okay, let's get that straight.
No fan of Zimmerman. And I, to be honest with you, it makes my skin crawl, even from a legal perspective, that I even have to defend the verdict, right?
Yeah.
I hate that shit, but it is what it is. That's the reality that we live in, and so from that perspective, it's where we are.
Yeah, man, it's a fucked up situation.
Pretty much.
It's an absolutely fucked up situation.
Now, to bring back your point about where the NRA comes into that, at least from my perspective, like I'm speaking here as Colion Noir. They defended stand your ground. What was happening in the media was they were pushing this narrative that the entire case was based on stand your ground, that George Zimmerman got off because of stand your ground. So what would happen is, from what I saw, and this was before I even got super involved with the NRA, I was watching these interviews and they were real slick about it. It was kind of like, they would ask them a question about stand your ground. They would argue in favor of stand your ground, and then they would turn around and say the NRA is defending George Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Which is slick, but I mean, that's